Yo, it's me. It's they call me Fiken. They call me Michael as well.
And you got Papa.
For me, I placed all my rankings based off of not only how they've played so far, so against other people, uh, but then also as well strength of schedule, who they have left to play. So, for example, I have Hank really low because so far the teams he's played have been relatively low, like low wins. He's played against a bunch of the lower ranked players, and he has yet to play against any of the upper ranked people, which I think is going to be kind of interesting because aside from Flora, um, he hasn't played anyone else, and I feel like he can definitely pick up a lot more losses, unlike some of the other people.
Yeah, I did my rankings based on results. I'm a results based analyst, so when I look and I see that there's a couple 4-0 teams, a few 1-3 teams, I kind of just ranked each team within their own bracket because we can assume strength of schedule by looking at the first couple of matches, but that I don't know. I feel like that's going a little bit too far. So I'm just assuming that the teams at the top are the best teams, and I did my rankings within each of those brackets.
Understandable. Yo, yo, yo. Yeah, we play next week, so this is going to be quite interesting to see how exactly it's going to work out. Yeah, yeah. You have the Obama smoke. Yeah. Yeah. I personally, one thing I also want to say when it came to my rankings is I actually looked at the KO leaders board. Um, I see that some people heavily rely on one or two Pokemon to get all their way. So you see Ole, Jacob over here, with only one Pokemon in the top 10 leaderboard at 4-0 at 11 kills. So you know that he heavily relies on that Lopunny to, get through. Same with Hank and his Estila, and with Flora's Chandelure. One thing that I think, I mean, this is just my own personal bias, is that I think that I've used every single one of my Pokemon except for I think maybe one or two so far. Um, and I have two Pokemon up here that are currently on the KO leaderboard. So I think I understand that, like, oh yeah, the whole rain thing, it's definitely my priority. But I feel like the way I get my kills, you don't really know where it's going to come from. But that's just
Yeah,
my own personal bias.
the reason I have Falcons team over yours, Jacob, is because I have been very impressed by how the rain has been played so far. You don't play it very much like standard rain, and it still works out for you. This week, for example, you got like 3 kills with Levani or something and set up sticky
Yeah.
webs. It was kind of insane. So I don't know. It's not the most conventional rain team, which is usually the problem that I have with rain teams, is that 4 or 5 of the 6 that are going to be the same every week. And like you said, yours not relying as hard on that Mega Swampert to carry you through. So I give the edge to the versatile Rain team. That being said, Jacob's team is just it's like
Yeah.
6 or 7 support mons and then 3 mons that will just sweep your entire team, and that's pretty scary as well.
And that's also the reason why I put Jacob over Flora. No offense to Hannah or anything. I have like the first time I got this team, because if you guys have looked at the original week 1 power rankings, I had an entirely different team than now. I was able to drop some Pokemon and trade as well to get what I currently have. And the very first thing I did is I did scrim Hannah, and I wiped the floor with her 3 times in a row. Because one thing I do know is that I feel like if you have a water-based team such as my own, it, especially with Rain and Swift Swim Swampert, will absolutely destroy the Chandelure, her strongest Pokemon. So that's my own personal thing, as well as the ice type she has. You said the Hail. The Toxicroak is also a relatively strong used Pokemon I have that I think can actually hard sweep most teams, and is currently, I believe, my highest kill Pokemon at the moment. Yeah, I think so. It's at 6 right now. So I mean, I think Hannah is a really extremely strong team, and that's why I have her third. But I feel like uh, it's a lot harder to take down the Megalopunny than it is to take down her Chandelure. So I personally have myself as number 1 because, of course, my own bias. Jacob has himself as number 1. But I think more or less it's the 2 of us number 1, 2, and then we have Hannah number 3 at the moment. Okay. All right. Oh yeah, sure. Oh my goodness, yes. Yes. Yeah. It was over. Yeah. It was I I completely agree. I honestly think Hubi is right up there with everyone else, even though he's now 3-1. Um, when I just played up against him last week, and I was able to pull out the victory 3-0. But like you said, I came in thinking that I could be able to like possibly get something cheesy off with the Leaveney, and I got a crit turn 1, and then I also killed his Sceptile as well with it, as well as heavily chunking out his Tapu Koku as well before losing my Leaveney, and that just turned it right on its head. So I honestly think that crit turn 1 like hard won me the entire match, and I don't really know where exactly I'd. Uh, I mean, there's very good likely that he could have beat me if I didn't get that. So Val, would you like to say something? We've kind of been talking over you this entire time.
Um, as far as Flora's team, this was the one that I struggled the most with, but she did play Hank's team directly and won, so that's ultimately why I chose to put her over. I mean, you can take what you want out of that, but the main issue I have, which is why I put her third in this like bracket of 3 undefeated teams, is that in the initial power rankings, I was really, really a huge fan of her Fairy Dragon Steel Core, and I really haven't seen it do all that much. I mean, they all come and they're all useful, but the fact that Chandelure is just getting all of these kills and just sweeping every week makes me think that people kind of might have just under prepped for her team and just focused really on those 3 picks. So I kind of just want to see more out of it. It's not that I don't think that Flora's as good or has as good of a team. It's just I don't think that she has had to work as hard for the 4-0. So
Yeah, there's a very All right, so you guys want to go into depth more about. So we went over myself, we went over Jacob, we've gone over Floor a little bit. Up next, I believe we have Hooby.
Hank.
Talked a little about him. Or do you want to go Hooby or
let's
Hank?
do Hank
right.
since he's
Let's go Hank. All right.
technically our fourth.
All right. So, would you like to start?
Hank's team has changed since the first power ranking video, and I'm not sure how to feel about it. I think that Megazard for Gardevoir, you kind of win some, you lose some with that trade, so it's not. Yeah, I really think that Megazard would have done well in the format. That being said, I think Mega Gardevoir just clicks buttons and has a better typing. I like the fairy typing. Just it's pretty insane. It can be Z, just not Commonium Z. Yeah. I think Celesteal is a big threat. This trade that I was really big fan of is picking up Weavile for Hank's team. That just adds so much extra stuff to prep for, because Sylveon can come offensively, but usually it's like a cleric or a specially defensive support on something like that. Now you have to deal with a Weavile who can run Scarf, Band, has the priority, has Pursuit to trap your Mons. It's really just an insane Mon.
See, unlike you guys, I actually have Hank ranked relatively low at the moment. He did lose to, like I mentioned at the very beginning, he did lose to Hannah at the very beginning. But since then, he's played a 0-4 person and then 2 1 and 3 people that we don't have relatively high ranked. So, like you said, he may have a relatively nice team, but at the moment, he hasn't really played up against the competition to show how his team fares against these, higher win people. I honestly think that some of these other individuals, such as Hooby and Snarfy, are a lot more scary to play up against, things I've played against both of them, and even though I've won, it's come to the edge, like gotten really close. So that's my own personal opinion. Once he plays all of us, actually, and then I believe, yeah, he plays me week 6, which is interesting because I have a very fun weeks ahead of me. But yeah, so once we get further on, I can place him with confidence. But at the moment, I think he's better than all these lower teams. But I have yet to see anything that really says, "Oh, this guy is a lot better than what his 3-1 rank says." Yeah, for sure. Yes, he did play that last week, I believe.
He played that against me.
Yeah, he did bring Diancie against. It didn't really work out. But one thing I do really like about him, as stated before, is that you don't really know what he's going to bring. And even though he really hasn't done much for the Tapu Koko yet, which is like an amazing Pokemon, he has each week he is swept with a different Pokemon. It feels. He swept with the Infernape. He's gotten 3 kills so far. He's gotten 4 kills on the Cloyster. He's gotten another 3 on the Sceptile, which he did used really well last week, and then his Garchomp is still an amazing Pokemon as well, and he has yet to use the Tapu Koko really aggressively. So I feel like that's the hardest part about dealing with Hoobi is that you don't know which Pokemon he's going to use to sweep you, and he has a lot more versatility than most other people. So you look at my team, and you'll know, all right, he's definitely going to be running the Politoed, the Mega Swampert, the Toxicroak, maybe even the Zapdos each time. But against Hoobi, you honestly don't really know which Pokemon he's going to bring and which one he's going to use to sweep you.
I think his team hasn't really changed since week one. I think it's still just the insane Fairy Dragon Steel Core, like we talked about. I haven't seen as much of the Mega Scizor as I would like. It's mostly been just a pivot when he brings it, and we kind of saw that if something happens that he's not ready for, it kind of went boom last week. So that's the main reason I put him lower than both of you did and put him fifth. But other than that, I think this team is pretty insane. I don't think we'll ever see Regice or Oricorio, but I don't really think that matters. So yeah, and when people prep against Ditto, they just decide against setup a lot of the time, even if just because it could come and then it could reverse sweep.
I think he's a lot better than his rank is. Myself and I think it's Hannah. Yeah, so
Yeah.
2 4 people. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's nutty. And it's not just full aggressive threats that like so when we talked about Hoobi had like a bunch of offensive threats, but he didn't really have any defensive threats aside from maybe like he wanted to run I guess Cloyster a little bit. But one thing that I like about Snarfy is that he has a solid core of offensive threats, but then he also has the Bronzong, has the Snorlax. Both of those are extremely beefy Pokemon. Uh, Rotom to some extent as well. All of them can play the more beefy role. I honestly really think that like he's played myself and he's also played Hannah to 1 away. Uh, if we misplayed once, like he won. So I think he's up there easily, and I would not be surprised if he was able to pick up a bunch of wins later on in the split against a bunch of these upper ranked division opponents. So I can see him winning up against Hank. Honestly, I can see him winning up against Hoobi as well. And I don't know, maybe he's going to even give you a little bit of run your money because I think that Mega Alakazam will probably deal a crap ton of damage to your low putty.
Yeah, I just realized my main mic wasn't plugged in, so there's a good chance that my audio wasn't recorded, but I really don't care enough to restart. Anyway,
I didn't hear you at all.
anyway, haha, haha. Yeah, no, I definitely think going back to that, I think uh, he could be a contention for a top 4 playoff spot, but um, I don't know. my personal belief is I don't think there's gonna be too much in terms of playoff spots that shake with the top 7 we have right now, with Val coming up next. I'm really excited to see who gets that 8th spot because I think a lot of these 1 and 3 teams can kind of turn it around. They all have a lot of really good things about their team and some weaknesses. So, Val, do you want to say anything about Snarf before we go on to you?
Does Schnarfy still have Meowstick?
No, I think he
Uh,
dropped it.
Oh. Okay, maybe he didn't update his page. I was wondering
Wait,
about
maybe.
that
Uh,
because it's
I think he actually still has it.
I don't think he's ever used it though.
yeah. I don't. It's just weird because I don't know where it fits in on his page. Maybe there's just a mon missing or something. But yeah, I think that his team overall is better now that he's made the trades. He fixed his speed tiers, which I think was the biggest problem he had initially, because there's like a huge gap between his fastest, which was Megazam, which can't even run Scarf, and I think his second fastest might have been Lando back then, or Meowstick, but I didn't really count Meowstick. So that's a good change. I think the Hawlucha is always going to be a threat. I don't think it pairs as well with Finny as it does with some of the other Tapus, because I don't think the Spadef boost is as beneficial as the defense boost. But that's kind of nitpicky. I think Shaman, super versatile, like it a lot more on his team than the Drapion. So I think overall his team's pretty good, probably better than its record. Has had a fairly tough schedule, so
All right, so let's go ahead and
Our boy Valentine.
yeah, let's go ahead and move on to Val. Well, one thing I'll say because they just played prepping for Val. I think is harder than prepping for any other team because I had to literally calc stuff for how many mons, all of his mons basically. Like,
Yeah.
there was nothing that was off limits that he might not bring. Like, for instance, I was honestly the best 6 against me. I felt like I thought Torn and Amoongus were gonna come. So I was very heavily prepped for that. I almost brought safety goggles on my Heatran. Um, and it's just like prepping for your team is just it's so scary. However, at the same time, um, I don't think there's very many huge threats on your team. You're gonna beat people because you're better at Pokemon than them, and you're gonna be better prepared than them. I don't feel like you're gonna have the Oli where you can just put in Lopunny and just sweep after there's only 3 mons left.
yeah, that's actually something that I noticed with my team playing it so far is that when I'm building, I never have. It's kind of a double-edged sword because I never have that mon that I'm like, oh, I need to bring this guarantee because it clicks buttons and gets KOs. Just because I mean Thundurus can kind of do that, but it's not the fastest, and so I don't have the biggest threats, and I also don't have the biggest walls. So my team is really balanced, and unfortunately, I feel like balance is not as good in draft as it is on the ladder. And so I'm just kind of still trying to figure out how to play around my team and how to use the mons that I've picked up. But overall, I like my team. It's just like you said, no one mon stands out that you're just gonna have to. If you don't have a defensive check to it, you just lose.
Yeah, one thing that I've noticed is that a lot of people will have these Pokemon on their team that they just have for the sake of having, and they're not actually going to ever use it because it's just not good compared to the other ones you have. I honestly think that Valentine, your team is actually it's so balanced that it's kind of negative, because you're the only one at the moment who has so far used all 12 of their Pokemon, I believe.
I'm close. Come on.
I'm close as well, man. But at the moment, you're the only one that's actually used all 12. And even though you've only picked up 1 win, I feel like you could have possibly have pulled out more wins relatively easily. I mean, the sad thing is, like I said, or like as it was stated before, you're only 2 real good sweeping Pokemon, or Pokemon that can really take down a lot of people on the team. Is your I believe it's your Thundurus and your Tornadus. So that's kind of unfortunate. I feel like you have a real good set of defensive Pokemon, but yeah, it's kind of iffy. if you had like one more Pokemon that could like really just kick it into overdrive and hard sweep that your rest of team could set up for, your team would be so much better.
I think that's pretty fair. I will say I kind of got hacked out in week 1, but
Yeah, no, I was gonna bring it up. That Rotom crit, dude. Oh,
that's okay though.
Ah.
I'm not.
So
really
so far, what you're
pretty
saying is that
salty
you
about it.
could be you're basically 3-1 at this point instead of 1-3 because of the week 1 crit and your week 4 misplay where you accidentally subbed out and put in your Thundurus, basically killing it.
Oh no, that was because I didn't click T-Bolt on a water type. But to be fair, it was a water type Tangrowth, so I don't feel as bad. That was pretty. I did that, and I clicked HP Ice, and it went off, and it said not very effective, and I got really confused.
I'm not gonna lie, I was also confused whenever he did click Thunderbolt. Why it did so much? I was just like, wait, what? And I'm like,
Yeah,
oh
it
yeah,
took me a
I was
second
soaked.
to
I was soaked.
Yeah, dude, that Araquanid. I think Araquanid is so undervalued, though.
Yeah,
will
I
say
think-
Surprised you're not running
Araquanid is
Liquidation on
insane.
it.
Oh, one
I
thing
think
I think would be cool after we go through all of them is just to go through all the tiers and say what we think is like the strongest in the tier. Stuff like
Okay.
that.
Yeah, we can do some stuff like that.
All right, let's
Like,
go next.
Which Pokemon is so far like which tier 1 Pokemon has shown up the most? Tier 2, tier 3, tier 4?
It's just our impression on like which of these mons is undervalued.
Like
Yes.
it either should be moved up a tier, or something like that. Anyway, let's move on to SYS. This kind of 1-3 team, y'all have them pretty close together, kind of interchangeable.
It's hard to get a good feeling.
So one thing I'll say about I think this team kind of has a similar issue to Val, where not to Val. I won't say that because like I think this team has threats, but it does not have a good theme of the team. I don't know what this team is trying to do when it comes in. Like Val, you can do anything you want when you bring your team, which is why one of the reasons your team is so strong. Like I'm like balance offense when I come in. Vikings rain when he comes. I have no idea what this team's trying to do. If it's trying to be balanced offense, I don't know why it has a Mega Sableye.
I mean, you say that, but you almost lost to it.
I mean, I just lost because okay.
You won, but
The reason
That was a
why
close game.
I feel like it was close. One, I should have lost the game. I misplayed and I deserved to lose. But also, if I didn't try to Volt Switch with my Vikavolt, and I just Bug Buzz, which I was in my prep, I just knew I could Bug Buzz and it was going to do like 72 to like 91% even without my choice specs. I would have killed the Jolteon and this would have won. But I think if this team had something other than Mega Sableye, I think it'd be so much stronger.
Yeah, I actually want to see a trade for Mega Gyarados. That is the mon that I feel would be insane on this team because you've got a lot of good electric answers, and Mega Gyara is a sweeper as opposed to Mega Sableye, which kind of just I don't know. Mega Sableye has kind of a high threshold. I kind of agree that it doesn't really fit on the team. And I think that this team is missing a little bit of setup because if you're not doing it with Ments,
What if
And
you
you
went
don't
Mega
really have-
Charizard?
Mega Charizard would be fine. I'm not a huge fan of 2 dragon sweepers. Like if both of your sweepers are dragons, then they have the same checks for the most
Yeah.
part.
and both Salamence and Mega Charizard will both be running not only Dragon, Flying, and Fire moves.
Hmm.
I honestly agree with the Mega Gyarados. I believe it does drop Intimidate once it evolves, right? Or goes
Yeah.
to Mega form.
Yeah,
It's
it gets
Mold
Mold
Breaker.
Okay. But yeah, like I stated before, Mega Gyarados not only brings the Water Dark to it, but it also brings in the Dragon moves, which won't be stab, but they're still relatively strong. But I feel like the biggest problem with this team is that it doesn't really have any like defensive-ish mons. It just all the Pokemon here except for maybe like Ferrothorn and Mega Sableye will like die almost instantly, and they don't have. I mean, Jolteon will have the speed right off the bat, and then on some cases Salamence would. But if you don't one-shot someone with Salamence or Jolteon, they're just going to kill you because Jolteon's hyper squishy at least, and Salamence you can, especially if it's not Mega, can be shot down relatively easily with a strong Ice or Dragon type.
Yeah.
I
I don't think
think. Okay,
I don't think the offense is that big of an issue. If like
no, the offense is
if
great.
that's the plan, but I mean like
too many offensive.
just go with the offense plan because you can go hyper offense and do well. But like you said, like the factor is Ferrothorn would make me want to like try to pick up something that's just a bit more balanced. Like there's still some regenerator mons that are available. I think like Alamola. It's just like how often are you really bringing like Flygon? Like drop Flygon for Alamola or just like a different mon you can pivot into that balances well with Ferrothorn.
One thing I find weird as well is that the fact that Darmanitan is his highest kill or KO leader is interesting. I think Darmanitan in general is just such a weird Pokemon because how it's like swaps stances and then it loses all of its like it's at a high. It has a high attack and then high speed, and it loses half all that and moves it into.
I mean, it doesn't run Zen.
Well, you just run Sheer Force.
Yeah, you just run Sheer Force. Darmanitan is such a threat. I think when I was looking through it, is Darmanitan tier 4? I think it might.
It's
be.
tier 3. I
Tier
think
3?
it's
Okay.
pretty strong.
That's
for tier
pretty
3.
fair.
Like Darmanitan. The thing with Darmanitan is it's cookie cutter mon. You bring Scarf for Ban Darmanitan or Life Orb.
Or
I guess
Life Orb.
it's Sheer
Yeah,
Force.
yeah.
You put it on there and you click Flare Blitz and U-turn, and you may as well not even put other moves on there. Like you can run EQ or Rock Slide if you need the coverage, but it's just going to get kills because there are just not that many answers to it.
Exactly.
Because Sheer Force Flare Blitz coming off a Mon with such a high attack stat, like I'm pretty sure it's like a 140 base attack stat, so
It basically
it's
turns
just
into
not switch-ins.
Yeah, this turns into what are they sacking on their team?
Yeah.
Alright.
Unless you have like a really bulky water or something like that.
Cool. All right, let's go to the next one. RRS. Right, is it RRS? Yeah. Our boy Caleb. I think Caleb has the hardest early schedule of anyone so far. I can go ahead and show people his schedule.
He hasn't played.
I mean, his week 4 match being an exception, but his
Week
first
4,
3
yeah.
weeks were pretty rough.
Like, it was me, then it was Flora.
Hank, then Flora.
Then it was... Oh, was it Hank?
Yeah, it was you, Hank, Flora.
Oh, me, Hank, Flora,
And
yeah.
then it was. So this is one reason why. So I actually put RRS lower than CCS. So RRS has only picked up 1 win, even though he has this really hard schedule. I think this is actually the best that Christian has ever done against someone was against RRS, Winterborn. So I think that's kind of scary that even though you have you could say that you had a hard schedule, which is true, but you still find a way to lose half of your team against someone who is actually not arguably, like we all have him as the lowest ranked player in the entire series at the moment, so I think it's a little bit sketchy.
I think that's fair. Is there anything you guys think would help Caleb's team in particular?
So I think his Kyurem Black, like that was actually my desired first pick, but he was able to grab it first. I feel like between Kyurem Black and I think you can actually use Mew really well as well because it's learn every single move apparently. I think
All TMs, HMs, and move tutors.
Okay. I honestly feel like he has the ability to really pick up a lot of wins with his team. He doesn't have really much of a team problem. I don't think, because he has a lot of coverages and a lot of strengths and not diverse Pokemon, but like Pokemon with a lot of versatility, such as the Mew. So I think it can definitely work out for him, and I can definitely see him going up in the future. But at the moment, what I've seen so far is he has only won 1 game, and that was against a 0-4 person, and he's lost 3 of his Pokemon through that process. So,
I mean, if you're talking about that, though, like, he is not really getting swept by these top teams either. He's losing by, like, 1 or 2 mons. I think in Hank's case, Celesteela just ran through him, but that's just because it was Celesteela. I think, like you said, if he just has more of a plan going into each week, you'll be seeing a lot more wins.
The main thing I have with this team is that I'm excited to see how Superior fits on it. I think it's it's gonna help him a lot.
Oh yeah.
He's missing a fairy type, which is kind of unfortunate because I think fairy types are just too strong. I've seen a lot of cool things with some of the mons, and I've seen some very weird things with some of them. So the Skarmory sets, in particular, you need to run Brave Bird on your Skarmory. Like you can't just run 4 non-attacking moves on that thing because then it's just fodder.
Is it
Like if
just
something comes in and you can't hit it at all, I think that's been an issue for him in
pocket
2 of his
spikes?
games.
Oh, sorry.
So just I don't know, some tempered creativity is what I'm looking for from this team. I'm looking for some cool Muse sets. I really liked what he did with Mega Bayonet the 1 week that he brought it.
Did he cheese the hell out of me?
He's
Yeah,
still
that
amazing.
was actually insane.
Oh, he took that. Was that against me?
That was against me. He trapped me, then he Destiny
Infestation,
Bond.
Taunt, Destiny Bond or something like that against
And
Tangrowth.
Destiny Bond has like pranks. Oh, I don't know, man.
That was really cool. And then in the very same game, his Skarmory had 3 turns to kill a Mega Lopunny and it couldn't because it didn't have Brave Bird. So one of those is really cool and one of those lost in the game. So just I think it's a little bit of team building stuff. I really like what I see. It's just sometimes it goes too far and sometimes maybe it's not far enough. But I think this is one of the teams that's going to go up.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Next we got CCS.
DCS. So okay, when you were talking about the whole Destiny Bond thing, I immediately thought of what happened with me last week. I think at the moment I've played up against him, and he has the. I mean, I don't know. I just looked at this team and I saw that there was a massive like electric weakness, and it doesn't really help that a lot of people have electric type Pokemon. Anywhere from the Lapras, the Braviary, the Gyarados, Scissor. Is that? Oh, it's still Bug. Never mind. But then the Mega Altoia as well. In general, there's a lot of like electric weaknesses to this team, and I mean, I don't really know what to say. He does play things relatively smart though. He was able to get a good cheese on me last week and killed my my Toxicroak through Destiny Bond. But I mean, I don't really know what to say except, I mean, yeah.
I mean, personally, I wouldn't say it has a huge electric weakness, because it does have Nidoking and Electrivire. You just have to be able to play kind of hot in order just to switch those in on electric attacks.
Yeah, the issue is that both of those are weak to like when
Yeah.
I noticed the same thing when I played against him. I brought Dual Dance Thunderous with Hidden Power Ground and Thunderbolt,
One thing
and it was
I think this team needs a grass type, like a good grass type. You saw the Go-Go going on your Swampert last week, and it couldn't kill it, and it's just like, I don't know. What's the point of having a grass mon at that point?
Understandable. I mean, Go-Go's heavily defensive, right? And it's not really an offensive grass.
is Keldeo a tier 2?
No, tier 1.
Oh, okay, it's just mislabeled. Okay,
Um,
that is
yeah.
very.
Dude, I was thinking of dropping Toxapex for Keld.
Did he drop?
Yeah,
Keldeo?
he had dropped his
He picked
had,
up
like-
Electivire, I think, after
Yeah,
week 1. I'm
He
not
dropped
sure.
Hydreigon, Chestnut, and Shiftry.
Yeah, I think he picked up Keldeo, Electivire, and Go-Go.
I feel like aside in general, I mean, you could teach. I think Nidoking and Electivire can know, and even can Scissor know, like exit or not Scissor, Leaf Blade, or is it only can it learn any grass type moves?
No,
Yeah, no,
Alright.
Scizor can't learn grass.
I'm pretty sure Nidoking and Electivire can learn, like at least grass knot thing.
probably.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I wouldn't be
Definitely
surprised.
need, like some form of grass type that'll help. Yeah, for sure.
I still just have issues with no Stealth Rockers besides Nidoking. I don't want to see a Nidoking run Stealth Rock every week, and I also don't want to see a team that doesn't have Stealth Rock. Though that's the biggest issue I have. I think if he had hazards, it would help him, and it would free up his Nidoking to be like the broken click buttons variant. So
No, for sure.
I believe week 1 he played up against SYS and lost.
Nail biter.
So that's one reason why I had. Are we all? Don't we? Yeah, we all have them lower than SYS and RS.
Yeah, we all did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not much else to say.
Okay, I think we're moving.
Yeah, I think the only thing
Oh,
with this
do you
team
want to say
is I don't think it has like really offensive holes. More of it's just like defensive. Like his team isn't bad. It's just there's like these big defensive holes that just make it a lot easier to prep for than other teams.
Yeah.
So let's move on to our bottom two. A
So
and A.
I honestly think like there's a massive group. There's the top 3 at the moment, and then like 4 through like 6 or so, and then or 4 through 6, and then 7 is just 7. Valentine, your little thing, and then I see 8 through 10, and then there's a massive gap after that, and then 11, 12.
And it's gonna come down to like who of the 1-3s right now is gonna step into that playoff spot, or maybe if someone starts choking above them. But
Yeah.
any of those 3, I think, can do it if they just figure out ways to fix their holes.
But these last 2 teams, I feel like are. I would be surprised if they're able to pick up any victories outside of from against themselves.
Okay. This one thing I'll say is I helped Jedi draft her team, and I think this team like the first like until you start getting into like some of the tier 4s and tier 5s, this team is so good in my opinion. And it just
This
like
team is hard to play though. Doesn't outspeed anything, and you've got like just you have to be able to play like bulky offense to play this team, or
Yeah.
even stall. And I think it's a harder play style than just sending in a threat and clicking a button.
yeah, I mean that's one of the reasons I don't like the lower tiers. I think there are fast lower tiers that could have been picked up. But I do like this morning Christians. I think if Christian like decides this week to sit down and make some trades and learn how to play Mons, his team could contend for a playoff spot.
Honestly, yeah, that's one thing that I like. These 2 players, I mean, honestly, their team is definitely like these guys can definitely compete for a playoff spot, if not be a solid playoff contender with their teams. I just look at it and say, just by honestly the skill of the player. I hate to say it. Week 1, I played up against ANA, and I think she ran Toxic and Will-O-Wisp on her Arcanine, and tried to use both of them on me, like Will-O-Wisp, and then try to go into Toxic immediately after, or vice versa. And there was a bunch of questionable things here and there that I didn't really think was the right decision. And that's one reason why I have these 2 players so low, in my opinion, is that I think their teams are great, but I feel like if they sit down and try to really hard learn, the strategy or the chess matches of Pokemon, they can go up, but at the moment, I don't think they have the ability to do so.
And I know that like I've offered to help them. I know Hank's offered to help them. I'm sure other people also just be offered to help them practice and prep stuff. So I don't know. Regarding these last 2 teams, I think there is a lot they can do, but right now I think there's a reason we both have them at 11 and 12.
I think it comes down to if this was kind of just a thing that you wanted to try and have fun, that's totally fine and more power to you. If you want to be competitive, you're going to have to practice and kind of just learn. Like, it just feels like there's like a lack of basic level battling here. And it wouldn't take very much for them to become competitive, especially since neither of them have a team that's so bad that they can't do anything. But especially for ANA, I think that it's going to take a little bit of practice to kind of understand the mechanics of the game, and then things would improve quite a bit. But it's not a huge deal if they just wanted to like test it out and they don't feel like investing that much time. This is an inaugural league. There's a reason that everybody was allowed, and it's for fun. So in the end, nobody is like upset or cares if they don't do well.
As long as they're having fun.
Yeah, that's really what's important. I don't want to count them out because it's only 4 weeks in. And if they want to practice, I'm sure that the majority of the people in the league would be more than happy to practice with them or give them pointers and stuff. So by no means is it over, especially since only 4 teams get eliminated. So there's no real reason to be too down, but we kind of have to rank from what we see. So
All right. Cool.
I feel like Christian OGP has just team wise has a better chance of getting to playoffs than ANA Jenna's team. Just because I feel like his team pairs
his team's easy to
better.
play.
Yeah, it's easy to
Just
play, and it's
run
like they
sand.
pair well together compared to Jenna's team.
The biggest issue I have with Christian's team is that I don't know how he does his prep, but it doesn't make sense. Like, I don't know if he understands the difference between special and physical moves because I see a lot of his physical mons running hidden powers. A lot of protect stalling his own sand and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think even more than in the last one, I think Christian would see a remarkable improvement if he just was explained the mechanics and somebody helped him a little bit with team building. I think that's kind of all he needs because, I mean, Pokemon's not a hard game to figure out once you get going. So,
I mean, it doesn't help that most of us, I think, have played Pokemon since I think Gen 2 onwards, if not even Gen 1. So we've been there when they've introduced the new like abilities, the new the special split, for example, as well, megas, etc. So we've been able to grow into knowing the differences between something really busted and something that like isn't really as good, and how exactly it's played out. So
Yeah. All right. Cool. So let's go real quick. Do we want to go to tiers and talk about mons you think are strongest in their tier, or if they should be moved up?
sure.
What do you think about that?
We're just going to look at the tier list?
Yeah,
or
I'm
we
just looking at the tier
some-
list.
Okay.
unfortunately, I do think that not all of the tier list Pokemon that have been taken are crossed out.
Yeah, there's some. I saw Mega Alakazam was on here. Stats are crossed out, but yeah, there's some holes in this one.
I mean,
But-
so yeah, my initial thoughts just on like the tier 1 is I think Mega Alakazam and Mega Lopunny are both very strong, but I don't think they're like the strongest in their tier. I just think they do what they do well, and I think it's like that's pretty self-explanatory. Where I think in tier 1, Celesteela, in my opinion, and maybe Lando Eye are just so
Lando T.
strong. Those are the two most busted in my opinion.
Do you mean Lando T or Lando? I?
Lando T, sorry, Lando T.
Oh, okay. I think Lando T is good. I think Celesteela is good, but I mean, it does have like it's not unbeatable. I don't know. I have a harder time putting defensive mons here. I think Kyurem Black is pretty insane in this tier. It's kind of the only one for tier 1 because if you're thinking about tier 1, if you're saying something's too strong in tier 1, that means it should be banned. And I don't really know. Like Mega Mawile would be something that I would put on the edge of tier 1 and ban list. And I don't think anything else in this tier is that strong.
Yeah, no, I definitely think tier 1's the most balanced.
I just think I think there are some tier 2s that maybe should be tier 1s and some tier 1s that maybe you could consider tier 2. But I don't think there's any tier 1s that deserve the ban.
I personally would actually lower Skarmory from tier 1 to tier 2. Maybe it's just the way that it's being played.
Yeah,
I
I agree.
think
It's just the worst Celesteela in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's probably one of the best setter-uppers in the game when it comes to entry hazards. But I don't think it is worth a first overall pick. I think Mega Alakazam, and you say Mega Lopunny isn't there, but I honestly think that Mega Alakazam, Mega Lopunny, and I think those two especially so far have really played like tier 1 Pokemon.
Yeah, I think, like I said, tier 1's for the most balanced. You can put some down. If Skarmory's tier 1, then I think Ferrothorn should also be tier 1. They essentially do the same thing, except for X4 Fire. Anyway, tier
I
2.
feel like you can make the argument that Toxapex, Tangrowth, Ferrothorn, and Skarmory should all be in the same tier.
Yeah. I was going to say for tier 2, I think Tangrowth should be tier 1. I think Tangrowth is so strong. It's one of the 2 mons I brought every week, and it's never done a bad job. Like, Regenerator is such a broken ability, and then
Yeah.
the fact it can be specially or physically defensive and do both incredibly well. It's just such a strong mon.
Yeah, I honestly think that you could probably move Fairthorn to tier 1 if Skirmer is going to be up there. But aside from that, I think Tangrowth is also really busted. Do you think there's any Pokemon in tier 2 that we have so far that you don't think are good enough to be tier 2?
Oh, I wanted to throw in Weavile as a
Yeah.
really, really strong tier 2. I was very surprised when that didn't get picked up until trades. And Reuniclus as well.
I'll also say Rotom Wash.
Yeah, I think Rotom Wash is fine in tier 2.
Rotom Wash, I don't think it should be moved up. But I think it's one of the best balanced mons there is.
Yeah, it's just really good in draft because it's a great pivot.
Yeah.
Pivots are just great.
Do you
Weak
want to say
tier
anything about your
twos?
Moongus, by the way? Do you think anything about your Moongus, Valentine?
I think Amoonguss is fine. I honestly would have taken Tangrowth over Amoonguss if it didn't get drafted before it. Having the poison typing is helpful, and if people don't prep for like Spore and stuff, it really just puts holes in teams. Like if a team is like relying on all 6 of its mons and you put one to sleep, all of a sudden that's almost as if it's fainted.
Yeah.
Because you can't use it for what it's intended to do. So I think Amoonguss is good. I don't think it should be tier 1 though. Nobody would
Yeah, I
pick
think
it.
I had a Zelf. I have a Zelf for this. I've run a Zelf like twice so far, and I think it's decent. I think that I can probably better utilize it. Same with like Zapdos as well in like tier 1. I feel like those are 2 Pokemon that I could probably better utilize. But I think they are placed correctly.
Okay, cool. All right, tier 3. My initial thoughts. I think tier 3 is probably one of. It's such a strong tier for the fact you get 2 mons.
Yeah.
And I think there's nothing that really stands out to me as super busted. Like for instance, Tornadus Eye has been doing really well for me, but I don't think it's like anything crazy or anything like that.
Oh, Chandelure being tier 3.
I don't think Schindler's that good. I think
Yeah,
people start prepping
I'm-
for it versus Flora.
I
I'm
agree.
thinking, like, at the moment, though, it's been playing super well. But
I think Primarina is hugely undervalued. That thing's a monster.
I didn't realize how good it was until I played against it, and I was like, "Oh crap! The thing that's defensive and just did 70% to me."
Yeah, I think Como
Komo's
Would
one
be-
another mon,
absurd.
especially
I think Arachnid is pretty nice as well.
there's going to be a week where Hank is not up against a flying type or a flying type user, and he's just going to bring Belly Jump Como with close combat and poison jab,
Jeez.
and it's just going to get 6 KOs because there's nothing you can do against that mon.
Yeah, that was actually one that I was looking into possibly getting, but it was taken before. I think that's why I decided to go with Gudra instead.
Oh, I think Araquanid.
Oh, I forgot Arachnid. Yeah, yeah.
Best in tier.
So many sets you can run.
Yeah.
What else
it's
here?
just- yeah.
I personally like Politoed, but then again, that's just because I have a rain team. And one thing that I've noticed in tier 2 is I believe Pelipper is tier 2.
Yeah.
Which honestly, I understand like Pelipper has more versatility than the top Politoed, but Politoed's so much more beefy, and I really
Yeah. It's not weak to grass, which is what
Pelipper has better resistances.
Yeah. Pelipper Mega Swampert not being weak to grass is what's really nice because they cover each other's 4 times,
understand.
and so that's why people run them together. But with your rain team, I agree Politoed fits better.
But yeah, I don't. Aside from like Araquanid, Komodo, are there any ones that you think have been like really strong and might want to be moved up?
Nothing had been moved up. I think tier 3 is pretty
Darmanitan.
fair.
Darmanitan's also pretty insane. If you don't have a counter to Darmanitan, you just lose to Darmanitan.
Yeah, I think tier 3 is like a mix of where you see just like kind of not too beefy, really strong attackers, and then like there's some more beefy guys. This is where you start to see like the Snorlaxes and stuff. So I think tier 3 is pretty interesting. All right, with that, let's go on to tier 4.
I don't know why is Talonflame tier 4?
Because Galing's got nerfed.
And rocks are a thing.
Yeah.
Alright. Just curious. Aside from that, I really enjoy my Toxic Cook.
I think Toxic is crazy for tier 4.
It's disgusting.
I think Toxic. I also think Vikavolt is really good. I think I only brought it 1 week so far. But like when I was just doing Calixon stuff, it just kills everything. I think it's a 145 base special attack.
I think the best answer from tier 4. There's two in tier 4 that I think should be tier 3 100%. Bronzong and Ditto.
Yeah, I was looking at Ditto. I agree with that. I think I was looking at Ditto the draft, and you picked him right before I was going to pick him up. Ditto's played in OU occasionally. Like,
Yeah.
it's a threat.
What's
I
your guys'
remember-
thoughts on Jellicent?
Dawson's good. I think like tier 4 is pretty fair though. I could maybe see tier 3. Val, when I was prepping for you, I was for the first like 10 minutes of prep, I was so scared of Ditto. I was gonna bring Protect on Lopunny. So I go Protect High Jump Kick and it'd just be a mind game for you.
Yeah, but wouldn't I just click return? Doesn't return kill Lopunny?
That's why I decided.
I was
not to.
surprised. The one thing I will say with Ditto is that it's if people are prepping, like if people are really mind gaming you in prep, you can kind of mess yourself up because, for example, like you should never bring Ditto against Mega Lopunny or Mega Pinsir because those mons run
Priority.
return.
Yeah.
No, they run return and they can also run frustration.
Okay.
You have to set your happiness to either max or min and try and guess.
The mind game, holy.
Yeah, and so that's just really annoying to deal with. So that's why I didn't bring Ditto against you. I wouldn't have known to put frustration or return.
You probably could have based off of what you've seen before. I know that who has is it Narfi that has
Bronzong?
not Bronzong, no. Snorlax?
Yeah.
Because whenever he runs Snorlax, he always runs Frustration, and I've noticed whenever you've run Mega Lopunny, you've always run Return.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if they're thinking about it, like if it crosses their mind, they're like, "Ooh, I'll just switch it up," and then
Yeah,
it's just no matter how much you think about it, it's always going to be a 50-50.
Because my mons love me. Can never run Frustration.
Alright, do you think there's any tier 5s that have been really strong?
I think tier 5 for the most part. I don't think anyone's ever brought like a tier 5 more than maybe once or twice. Lapras was the strongest tier 5 I saw.
I think you pick a tier 5 for one specific purpose, and that's when you can get good tier 5s. Like if you
Exactly.
pick Leafeon to set up sticky webs, then Leafeon is a
No,
good tier 5.
Leaveney?
Or Leaveney, not Leafeon, sorry.
So, yeah, I
Um,
was actually split between Leaveney and Leafeon. Leafeon can know, I believe, Wish, which I thought was going to be really nice to have as like a heal poke, but I honestly do really enjoy having Sticky Web Pokemon.
Yeah.
Yo,
If you pick Cryogonal to defog or spin, then Cryogonal is a good tier 5. Like those are tier 5 is where I feel like you pick up parts that you're missing, and then people if people have to prep for it, then that's good. I will say Palisand probably too strong for tier 5.
Yeah.
I think Palisand's really good.
I also still think Lapras is really strong for tier 5. Like, like Lapras is just like the fact it gets Water Absorb and Freeze Dry and Ice Shard. Like, there's just so many techs you can throw on it just for specific matchups. I think that's strong. But yeah, I think one thing I regretted kind of after the draft is I kind of had ideas of what kind of stuff I wanted for my tier 5, and I didn't look at my draft and say, okay, these are my holes. This is what I need to do. So I had to like, did I pick up 2 tier 5s or just 1? So I know I dropped something for tier 5. Yeah, I dropped one of my tier
You have
5s
Samurott
for
and
Samurott.
Abana and Rotom. You have 3 tier 5s.
And it's like, I remember I dropped my Pharaoh Seed for Samurott, and I should have identified that I needed that Samurott earlier on. Alright, cool.
And now that we've gone over it, do you think there's any Pokemon that you are surprised were picked up, or Pokemon that you are surprised are still not picked up?
I know Val was surprised about Weavile, but that recently got picked
Yeah.
up.
The Mega Lotties, I would have expected those to go first round. They're so good. Those are actually, we didn't talk about those, but I think those are next in line. If you ban after Mega Mawile, Mega Lotties are the next in line, I think.
I'm actually kind of surprised that some of the ultra beasts such as Blessiphion.
Blacephalon?
Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, especially with Beast Boost and the extremely high special attack and I believe extremely high attack that Blessiphion has, I feel like it can easily just hard carry an entire match.
Yeah, I considered Blacephalon for a while.
Yeah, me
I'm
too.
not I'm actually not really surprised that a lot of the like fire type Pokemon or even some of the grass type Pokemon aren't really being picked up, such as the Blacephalon. Um, for an example, because I know that there's so many water Pokemon out there, or Pokemon that can know water moves or ice type moves, that I feel like you can really check even some of the dragons as well. So
I mean, I think the reason that fire types aren't picked up is just how strong rocks are. Like Mega Charizard Wildbeat is such a good mon in doubles, for instance, and like for VGC because you don't run rocks, so there's never a threat of having to switch in and take half your health. I don't know. I think rocks are kind of OP in that respect, but I get it.
Oh yeah.
I don't think rocks should do have to fire flying. It's so gross.
now that we are completed with everything, do you guys want to go over like predictions about how? I mean, I'm gonna assume that we're doing week 0 is pre. Well, there's a fucking.
Yeah, we might do a week 8 once the
Yeah, week
teams
8
are
and week
locked
12.
in and
Yeah.
there's no more trades that can happen. If we want to do predictions for playoffs, of course I would say
predictions for playoffs, or how do you think teams are really going to look from this point onward?
all right. These are my bold predictions. I believe my boy Snarfy is going to work his way up in the top 3. That's my bold prediction. I have 2 bold
Alright.
predictions. That
I dig it. I dig
and I
it.
also believe Christian is making playoffs. Because Christian,
Ooh.
if you're listening, I believe in you. I know that if you want to, you can man up and make your way to a nice little 6-5 record. You just gotta believe in yourself. And
Dude, Christian,
put in the
I'll
work.
help you build if you want. Just let me know.
Okay. Yep.
And yeah, I think I don't know. I
Would
think
you say that? Okay, sorry. Continue.
I'm gonna do one last bold prediction. Let's see.
Would you say that Christian is your biggest like rise?
Oh yeah, for
Or
sure.
do you
Dude,
think that's Snarfy? Now,
Cr-
also, who do you think is going to be your biggest drop then?
drop.
That can be your bold prediction.
It's
Be
gonna,
honest.
It's gonna be Flora or Hoobie. Hoobie can go. Hoobie's such a wild card for me because I think every week he can just like sweep. But I also think like if he gets unlucky, he can just lose at the same time. But that's just part of the game, and that's just gonna be like how much he preps for individual things, and I don't know. It's just hard. I hate prepping for crits. Crits is the luck I hate. Crits and misses.
Yeah.
But yeah, those. I'll say that. I'll say my people I think might drop are Hoobie and Flora. 2 people rise: Christian and Snarfy.
What about you, Val?
Are we doing who's gonna rise and who's gonna fall?
Yeah, I'll just go with that for prediction.
Okay. I think Hannah's gonna fall the most because I think at some point people are just gonna take that team really seriously. Not that it's not the case yet, but I don't know. There's just something about it that's just what I'm looking towards. She hasn't played a single game poorly yet. Her team is insane, so there's really nothing to back up what I'm saying. But that's just my guess.
Oh, look at that.
And then I think that Frostfur is going to be the one to surprise people
I can
and
see that.
at least take that 8th spot because I've seen some really impressive stuff, and if it was refined just a little bit, her record would be 3-1 instead of 1-3.
True.
So those are my 2 to watch.
I honestly agree with Anna, but I don't think she's going to fall that much. I think she's gotten enough like early wins that she's definitely going to be making playoffs.
Oh yeah,
And
for sure.
I still would put her anywhere between 4 and 5. I don't think she's going to fall into the 6, 7, 8 position. But I would honestly say that my biggest rise. Who would I want to put? I might have to go with Caleb Winterbourne.
Hell yeah, dude.
Like we said before,
That's
he's
another good one.
had a really hard schedule right off the bat, and it's going to be just a lot easier for him now to go up. And I feel like he has the team to really kick ass. And I feel like if he just makes a few of those small changes, such as trying to use Skarmory more than just a hazard Pokemon and that's it, and fully making use of the versatility that's like a Pokemon like Mew could bring, I could definitely see Caleb rising up as well.
All right, cool. All right, with that, I think we're done. Good job, everyone.
Sweet.
Feel free to comment in Discord what you guys thought about the video, how on point our opinions were. I'm sure none of us got saying anything controversial or wrong. So, all right, until week 8. Good luck in your matches, trainers.